Hey everyone, welcome to the first milestone for your Biology 120 class. I wanted to shoot this video for you since there is kind of a lot of questions sometimes that come about from this project because it leads into your final project. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing is don't panic. When you look at the final milestone rubric for your overall project, it's very daunting and big. So whenever you go to it, which I would highly recommend reading through this before you pick your topic, because you have quite a bit of things that topic has to address. And some topics are a little easier than others, whereas some are a little bit harder than others. So make sure you read through this entire rubric. All right. So after you read through the rubric, you can go to your milestone 1 rubric. And this one is, because you're just doing milestone 1, it's shorter because you're not doing the final project, right? So here's your list of topics to choose from. And then you're going to be answering these specific questions. And then the rubric has your checklist to make sure that you have everything that you need. So here is the list. Now, I did say there were some topics that are a little bit easier than others. The ones that are a little harder to do whenever you are going through this would be the alternative sources of energy and genetic modification, just because sometimes they don't readily lend itself to some of the questions. But that's not to say that you can't do them, or that they'll make it impossible for you to do your final project. You just might have to think outside of the box a little bit. And you could also contact me and say, hey, I'm really stuck on, this particular question for my topic. So if you want to do these topics, please don't avoid them because you think they're going to be too challenging. You are more than welcome to do them. It's just that they're slightly harder than some of the other ones. So once you've selected your topic, you're going to describe the topic you selected. You're going to talk about its significance or its interest to you, and then why is it significant or interesting to biology in general. And while you're answering those questions, you're supporting it with real-world examples. So the example I give here is I chose genetic modification. Now that's the one I said was a little bit more difficult. I just want to show you how this can be done with a difficult topic. So of course I'm going to describe what genetic modification is. I'm going to talk about why it's significant to me. So as a environmental scientist, we are using a lot of genetically modified organisms to do certain things. So we're like modifying bacteria to eat plastic. We're modifying our food to make it like drought and pest resistant. And those are also similar reasons why it's significant to the field of biology, because biology is the study of life. And if we are altering life, then it matters. And so those are some of those real world examples about, how we're modifying, mosquitoes to try to make it to where they can't spread diseases. The genetically modified foods and animals that we're doing, modifications that we're doing to do gene therapies and things like that. So those are all examples. And obviously I'm limited on my time in this recording, but you want to be very detailed with this. So this would probably be about 2 paragraphs. Now the next section that you go to, it's asking you to describe the ecosystems and biomes where this topic kind of emerges. If you aren't familiar with an ecosystem or a biome, there are materials in the class announcements where I show you like examples of those, but like a desert would be an ecosystem or a rainforest. A biome is a little bit bigger, but you just want to go ahead and discuss your topic and where it occurs. So if I stick with my genetic modification topic, right here, right? The ecosystem it occurs in is depending upon what the actual modification that I'm looking at is. So if I'm looking at genetically modified mosquitoes that were released in Brazil, then that is the ecosystem, is the area in Brazil that they were released in. If it's specific genetically modified foods, it might be in a field in Montana. Those are just examples kind of off the top of my head. If you picked deforestation, right, the deforestation of like the Amazon rainforest, that would be the ecosystem that it's occurring in, is, the rainforest. If you picked eutrophication, which is basically runoff of nitrogen and phosphorus chemicals, most of the time from agriculture, you want to describe the specific location that is occurring in. So it might be a very specific lake, or the Gulf of Mexico, or the Mississippi River. If you're talking about like a specific population, if you chose population ecology or endangered species. So I have like a picture of the polar bears. The ecosystem that topic is emerging from is in the Arctic. So that's what I mean by that particular section. Now the next section is how does your topic occur? So these are a little bit tricky, right? Because genetic modification occurs from people inserting or removing genes. So you would want to talk about how that is happening. Now, if you're talking about air or water pollution and it's coming from like a human source, then that would be how that's occurring. If it's an endangered species, what is leading to that species to be endangered? Sorry, I'm trying to mess with my computer screen a little bit here. I apologize for that. So if you get stuck on how it occurs, just let me know. And then the final part is this is the one that's a little bit difficult. So the ones that students struggle with tend to be like identifying the ecosystem, depending on the topic you choose, and then this one. And this one is describe the species, including their classification. So the classification is like, is it a mammal, reptile, bird, if it's a bacteria? So describe the species that benefit as a result of this topic. So that can be difficult, right? Because I'll get emails saying, I don't understand. I chose climate change. I don't understand how any species is benefiting from that. Or air and water pollution. What is the benefit of that? So we have to think of things not necessarily on like a human-centric level, right? Because climate change is harmful to us. It's also harmful to wildlife, certain wildlife. But there are certain species that are actually benefiting from the climate changing. So it's allowing them to have a bigger range of habitat. There are definitely some ways that humans are benefiting, and that's kind of like the second part of this, where it says within the human species, are there any individuals or industries that benefit at a personal or corporate level because of this topic? So because sea ice is melting in the Arctic, it's actually opening up those passageways for longer than they used to be. And so we are able to increase like our trade into areas that we didn't normally. So there are corporations that are benefiting from climate change. So if you are talking about air and water pollution, you might want to think on like a bacteria level, especially if there's something like if you have eutrophication, those species are benefiting from the fact that they are getting an increased amount of nutrients. And then of course there's particular side effects from eutrophication is that it's normally coming from fertilizers and pesticides. So we are benefiting from that because we are getting increased crop yields from that, so more food. But the downside is that it creates this problem of eutrophication. So like I said, if you get to any of these parts and you are struggling with what can I do? Like, how do I answer this question for my particular topic? I'm more than happy to help. Please reach out. But there's also resources in the class announcements as well that I'll post so that way you can have information. But please don't hesitate to reach out.